Alright, chat, can you hear me? Test. Testing 1, 2, 3, and I think the audio is fine. Just a minute. And we can start soon. Alright. It's okay, so I'm going to return to my roots and start talking about money. As I normally do, and not just any type of money. I'm going to talk about more specific types. The stock market. If I sound tired or bored, it's not because I'm bored, I'm just tired. A long week. Shit like that happens. So yeah. Anyway, welcome back to my bread and butter, stock market. And okay, I'll just start off with the more generic overview and go into specifics. And I know it's like a kind of a tangent, but if you want my offer, it's available on my Booth store. I'll add it to the description section. And yeah, let's get to it, I guess. Oh yeah. First thing first, just because I'll just start off with stating this. Just because a company does good on paper doesn't mean it's exactly, am I freezing up a bit? Let me just fix that. Okay, so is my glitching a bit or is it fine? Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, how's the smoothness? I think it should be fine. Oh shit. Network issues. Pain in the ass, isn't it? Let me see what else I can kill. Process I can kill in the background. Yeah, I think that should do the trick. Okay, am I still freezing a bit? Fucking hell. Yeah, I think it's better now. Chat, is it better now? Oh, hi KJ. Is the smooth the video fine, or is it kind of not glitching? Because if that's the case, what else can I move? Yeah, I think I'll just go with this. Okay, this is what I commonly refer to as my slideshow because it's like I don't know, 5 frames per minute. Okay, yeah. Anyway, sorry for diverting from the topic at hand. As I was saying, just because a company is doing well, that doesn't mean the stock's gonna do well. Because stock market investment is basically psychology. Herd mentality. You study the herd, you know which one's gonna do well. It's as simple as that. Like, for example, people once pumped up Virgin Galactic stock, which was practically worthless. Given that, I'll be honest here, I like Richard Branson, seemed like a nice guy to grab a drink with, but don't really think he's good at running a... Okay, a lot of background noise, just give me a minute, I'll fix that. Is it better now? Yeah, is the audio better now? So yeah, I was saying some companies are just there because of the hype. Like, for example, if you take Virgin Galactic, let me just open my browser over here, keep it as a background. Give me a minute over here. Just give me a minute. Oh, is it still bad? Okay, is the audio improved, or is it still bad? Now let me just capture window. Okay. Okay, so this, what you're seeing back behind me is the stock for Virgin Galactic. It's basically, I don't know, SpaceX before SpaceX was a thing. Unlike SpaceX, which focused more on the commercial side of things, as in sending, or Jeff Bezos, I think it's more like a Blue Origin, to be honest. If I'm gonna be honest, so yeah, it's a company that predates Blue Origin and SpaceX. Yet, yeah, people don't really talk much about them. So yeah, they went for an IPO in 2017. It was kind of constant, more or less. As a sudden jump in 2020. It was probably a pandemic thing, people start panic buying shit. It was that put audio presets. Now it makes my OBS much heavier. I tried that once. Not a good experience. So yeah, I was saying. You know what? I'll look into that later. Yeah. So the thing is, Virgin Galactic, despite everything, they promised to have started commercial flight travel in, I don't know. It should have been done by this time. Yet they haven't. So thereby the stock values dropped. But the entire hype, like, it reached a value of what, $55.91, is like close to $56 for a company which inherently has no revenue. So yeah, that just points out that just because the stock value is rising, as in over here, it's like what, from 2016 till 55, that's like a close to a 200% increase, or more than 200% increase. Stock value is still low. I mean, the stock, like, they haven't really created anything. So yeah, if you can make anything of my rambling, a point I'm trying to make is, just because a company is doing well doesn't mean the stock value of the said company will do well, or vice versa. Just because the stock is doing well doesn't mean the company is doing well. It's just how much faith the average investor has in said stock. Oh, hi Silver, how you doing? It's as simple as that. It's basically, what people think about said company. On the basis of that, I was going to talk about, okay, and just because, let's say, one thing works on, say, the New York Stock Exchange, doesn't mean it'll work on the National Stock Exchange. That's the Indian version of which is one of the Indian stock markets. There are two in this country. That's the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange. And it's beneficial trade in both if you're ever thinking about trading in this country. So yeah, as I was saying, each investor more or less has a level of tolerance towards risk. I would argue that American investors are more risk tolerant than, say, Indian investors. And when I say American Indian, I'm talking about people who invest in those markets, not talking about the nationality. So yeah, so let's take American investors, like hypothetically, when a startup, like, one of those companies that doesn't really create profit, but has technically technically Tesla could be considered could have been considered a startup when they went public. Oh yeah, okay, Jim. So you want to invest long term, right? The thing is, I assume you're residing in India and you might want to invest in the Indian stock market. So you might want to invest in the Indian stock market. So in that case, just see the news. Like right now, I'd say the Bharat Dynamics Limited and the HAL might be doing well. Although I'm kind of biased towards BDL, Bharat Dynamics Limited, due to the fact that it's a missile company. And the reason I'll say that is, I know I'm talking in circles. So to start off, ever since the unfortunate event in Ukraine, I'm not gonna go into that in the stream because that's a political stream, which I'll do later. And how I think the Russian strategy in Ukraine sucks, but that's a different stream. I know I digress, but I'm going on. So due to that, many countries are kind of investing into the defense industry, including surprisingly India, a country which doesn't spend much money on actual defense equipment. Rather, they spend money on pensions. But that's my concerns about the Indian defense industry. So they're buying new aircraft made in India. That's manufactured by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited (HAL). Thereby, someone, let's say the Times of India or the Hindu, which is an Indian newspaper, for those who are unaware, writes some articles about this shit. People get interested and they buy stuff, thereby pumping up the value of the stock. So that's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Bharat Dynamics, on the other hand, is a missile manufacturer. And a pretty good one at that. Unlike, let's say, the BrahMos project, which I personally think is overrated. Fight me on that if you want, but yeah, so Bharat Dynamics mass produces missiles. And, what's the point of a fighter aircraft without missiles? So thereby Bharat Dynamics stock has actually jumped by 30% since, 2 months ago. Last 2 months it's jumped up by 30%. And it's kind of on an upward trend. You know what, I think I'll just go to here. PDL, let's see, just give me a minute. It's over here. As you can see, Bharat Dynamics is... Okay, it's not a government agency per se, it's a state-owned enterprise. So I would argue that, this is one of the companies to invest in for the time being. If you're planning on holding it long term. So yeah, as you can see, when was it? Where's that? And I'm sorry, my mind's all cluttered here. So let's take it they went public recently, pretty recent. It was in 2018. So when was it? Jan, Feb, March. Okay, so Feb, let me just, I'm sorry. So the Russian incursion into Ukraine was on the 24th. And as you can see, from the 24th till now, there's been a steady increase. And when was the deal struck? I think it was struck on, what's today, 20th. The HAL fighter program started off on 7th, about 8th or 9th March. So yeah, it's been increasing since then. Oh yeah, I don't trust in penny stocks. Okay, penny stocks are highly risky. As any investment firm will tell you, penny stocks, unless you're gonna go full time, penny stocks aren't the thing for you. Because think about penny stocks is most of the companies tend to have a market cap of ₹500,000 at most when it comes to penny stocks. 500,000 or a couple of million, that's it. Something that theoretically speaking, you can take over their publicly traded equity. The thing about penny stocks is investors see it as a pump and dump scheme, like a legal pump and dump scheme. So what they'll do is they'll pump up the penny stock and they'll sell it when the prices rise. People get interested in buying it and they dump it on someone. But the problem is, most people end up holding a shit ton of penny stocks without knowing what to do with it. I think there was one penny stock I was kind of looking into called BU Limited, I think. Let me check. Yeah, BU Overseas Limited. I'll just show you. Let me just pull it up. Just give me a minute. BU Overseas Limited is a tea trading company based out of Calcutta, India. But they have assets in parts of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So yeah, as you can see, every now and then there's a pump. As in there's a pump over here, then there's a dump over here, then there's another attempt at a pump. It's gonna dump again, and so on. So if you're gonna trade in penny stocks, it's not long term. You have to buy it when it's rising, and you have to sell it the moment it starts dropping. Simple as that. And the quote, sure, penny stocks are doing well recently because when I say recently, I mean in 2021, late 2021, early 2022, due to the fact that people wanted to diversify from, say, standard fiat currencies. But if you want to hold the, let's say, penny stocks long term, not worth it. I'll be honest, and for all intents and purposes, most recent IPOs might end up as penny stocks. Just saying. Especially those coming from the recent startup culture. So think about startups, most of them don't really generate profit per se. They generate revenue but not profit. Which is good when you're talking about venture capital firms because they invest based on projections. As in how much will the money will the company be worth in, let's say, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, so on. However, the average stock market investor isn't that forward thinking. In fact, most stock market traders in India would be risk averse compared to, let's say, their American counterparts. So yeah, let's take Zomato, which is, as I fondly call it, Indian DoorDash. Pretty good company. In fact, I'm a frequent customer. I'm a fan. But that there's a small problem with their stock. Even though I own a shit ton, and I won't say shit ton. I own a reasonable amount, but with the hopes that it could rise. I have a feeling it will, like, down the line might rise, but don't quote me on that. The thing about startups in India, like those going for an IPO, is since they don't generate profit, many investors are scared to invest in them. I just take Paytm, which is basically Indian PayPal. Paytm stock's just been on a downward spiral since their IPO. Let me just check. And don't quote me on this. This is just my analysis. Like, and don't sue me, Paytm. But I think Paytm's only alive as a company due to the fact that the Indian government kind of has a soft spot for them. Okay, so this is Paytm right now. Yeah, they rebranded into 197 Communications, even though their flagship product is still called Paytm. It's kind of like Facebook and the Meta, but more or less the same thing. Yeah, so as you can see, they went for an IPO on November 2021. Rose a bit, okay. And from that day onwards, it's been on a downward spiral. So it reached from a peak of 1,782, quite a reasonable amount, a pretty decent amount, to 594.26, and it's like a 61.93% drop, which is I want to punch a guy who's already down, but that's pathetic. So that's the thing. So if you wanna invest in, let's say, long term, go for established companies. As in companies that the government's gonna bail out. Like, that's why I went for like, ONGC did well pretty recently when there was a fear of an oil crisis, but ONGC is Oil and Gas Corporation of India. That's it's if the government owned Shell. So investing in that could do it, but like, in all honesty, don't go for penny stocks, because penny stocks aren't really worth it. If you're willing to trade on a daily basis, go for it, but long term, holding on to it, it's not worth it. It's a pretty slippery slope on penny stocks, and in all intents and purposes, if you want my predictions, Paytm could end up as a penny stock given the situation they're in. And my rule of thumb is, when it comes to investing in stocks, is always invest in stuff people get addicted to: war, alcohol, and drugs. War, alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. Those things do really well because they have a constant market. The people who smoke. I'm not really into. I don't know much about mutual funds. I haven't really looked into it, so can't really comment on that. I just I put my cash in as fixed deposits in the bank, but apart from that, not really gotten much into mutual funds. I can't really say much about that. I think about mutual funds in me is, it's not like I don't really get along with mutual funds in a way. They're too long term for my taste. But I know I'm diverging from the topic here. The best one would be gold. Best investment would be gold, because humans as a species always like the shiny stuff, and that by design means that if you're going to invest in gold, and if you're based off India, for a fact that gold prices will even though it kind of rises and drops in the middle, it's always on an upward trend, unless, let's say, hypothetically, there's a huge comet of gold that crashes on a planet, the prices of gold are going to keep going up because the supply is more or less relatively constant, as in fixed. It's only a fixed amount of gold on the planet, and the demand is rising. And given that gold doesn't really get spoiled per se, as in it's not paper, doesn't rot, it doesn't have an expiry date. It's an inert metal. Due to that fact, I'd say that gold is a pretty good investment. And okay, if you live in a country where redistribution of alcohol is legal, then alcohol is a pretty good investment, especially whiskey and vodka. So think about heavy spirits is that whiskey, vodka, brandy, and the likes is that, like gold, they can't rot. They've reached a point where they're just a chemical, not an edible substance. Even though I drink it, I don't know how to classify them. They're like the weird mixture between edible substance and a dangerous chemical. So due to that fact, they cannot get spoiled. They cannot rot. They don't have an expiry date on them, and they stay as long as the bottle's sealed. They stay they're pretty good, as in the taste stays constant. But due to that fact, the price of alcohol has been rising steadily over the years. If we consider that global warming could affect given that global warming could affect supply chain managements in the future, it's possible that the price of alcohol will increase in the foreseeable future, like considerably increase in the foreseeable future. Like, let's take whiskey. Whiskey is based on wheat, like grain. Grain in theory is used for bread and all that. So it's food and alcohol. In the future, it's possible that food prices and alcohol prices will rise simultaneously, as both of them are more or less alcohol and technically is a subset of food. Let me just see if I can pull up the graph of alcohol prices over years. I think I got. Yeah, okay, the other thing is the older the bottle, the more expensive it gets. That's common. I couldn't find the price, but it was pretty, how I put, it was quite interesting to see that whiskey prices go up over the years. The thing is, invest in addictive substances, that's it. I'm personally against addictive substances, but it's not really something you can stop, right? So, if you can't stop it, why not, just invest in said substance? You know what I mean? Yeah, cigarette companies do great, alcohol companies do great, so on. Cigarette, alcohol, and water. And pharma. Big pharma always does well, because people need medicine. And let's say given that there are talks of a next wave of the unspecified virus of unknown origin, it's possible that how a pharma company like Pfizer might stock prices might rise. But then again, that depends on how the government portrays said wave. As in, if it's underreported, then not really a big thing, but it won't really affect the stock prices much. But if it's considered, if let's say the press really covers the next wave, the stock prices of pharma companies could rise. It's all in the narrative. It's all based on the narrative that it's portrayed on how well the company is going to do. It's what's perceived to be true that matters, not what's actually true. Yeah, I think I took a really wild tangent on that. So yeah, moving on to, I don't know. Now, the other thing is, diversification is good, but don't diversify too much, because then you're in a position where keeping track of your stuff is tough. You get what I mean, right? So yeah, any questions so far? I'll just wait for like a few minutes. I'll be right back. Let me just grab a drink. I'll be right back. And chat, if you have any questions, just drop it down in the comments. So yeah, as I was back, and sorry about that. I had to take a break. I had to go grab a glass of water, and yeah, I think what should now where was I? Yeah, I was talking about whiskey, and then you know. So yeah, when we go to IPOs, the IPOs are like when a private company becomes publicly traded. It's a hit or miss. Okay, it's a hit or miss. Just keep an eye on the press. Those are the guys who kinda build or destroy a company. All you have to do is get if the press gets a good story out about said company, then things do go well. Else it doesn't. It's all in the narrative. And it's as I said, it's all in the narrative. It's all the story that you may not tell. How do you portray a company? Do you portray it as so as I was saying, it's all public perception. And yeah, I think I said the same thing in 5 different ways, if I'm right. Yeah, so moving on. What do I talk about now? Yeah, it kind of sounded like there'll be a lot to talk about in my head, but now, not really much. Once I start talking about, I don't see much that I'm actually talking about. So yeah, that's that, I guess. Oh, any questions so far? And also, I think I'll kind of end the stream early. Just 10 more minutes and end early. Kinda had a long day yesterday, so and a long day last week at work. So yeah, that's that. Another thing is banks kind of do pretty okay in India, but then again, invest in a bank that doesn't hire idiots. Just saying, because all it takes is a couple of bad loans for the bank to go down. And yeah, talking about bad. Oh yeah, I can actually talk about bad loans. Bad loans are basically loans that the person who took the loan has defaulted on said loan. So yeah, quite a lot of Indian. So for my non-Indian audience, we have a concept where many companies are nationalized by the Indian government. As in, the Indian government is a majority stakeholder, or the complete stakeholder of said company. And we have something called PSBs, public sector banks. The thing about PSBs are they're supposed to be a counterweight to the private banking sector, but in a way they kind of aren't, but they are. As in, PSBs are becoming privatized recently. The thing about PSBs, many of them tend to give loans to. I now want to say something controversial. Don't cancel me on. Don't hate me for this. They give loans to farmers. And the thing about farmers are, yeah, sure, they feed the nation, all that, but a farmer isn't really a good source of investment. Like, given that the Indian agricultural industry is still kind of primitive. Like our agricultural industry kind of still resembles sharecropping per se. Sharecrop, I'm quite sure the American audience understands the term. Sharecropping is that one person owns the land. They let other people take little plots of said land and plant stuff, and in return they have to pay rent or some shit like that. I don't remember the exact specifics, but that's how it goes. So that wasn't really a profitable model, and in like running a bank, not running a fund, running a bank on the basis of that is kind of not profitable from a capitalistic sense. sure you're helping people and all that, but then again, that doesn't put money on the table, does it? Like, that's how things are. So, yeah, nationalized banks, and some of them have up to, I think they have like 20% or 30%, that's close to that, that are bad. The loans they've done, about 20 to 30% are bad loans. So 20 to 30% of the times they lost money. And you may be like, okay, 20 to 30% doesn't mean like 70 to 80% they're actually doing well. Not exactly, because the 70 to 80% includes active loans. If you know, so the 70 to 80% are to be seen if they're bad, if they're doing well or not. So yeah, and I know this sounds a tangent, but I seriously need topics to talk about. So anything else, chat? Any questions? Any questions on how not to? I know what another thing I tell is don't buy a company just because it's owned by the Tata Group. Just saying, some of them are do well, some of them don't. And another thing is, before you buy a company, just get to know what the company does. Just don't buy it based on the numbers, because sometimes knowing how the industry works could help you predict future numbers. Just saying. So yeah, I think if that's that, I might end this really short stream soon. No, I need to get something done. Oh, I think I'll end it now. Maybe I might stream later on tonight, maybe not. I don't know. I'm sorry, my schedule is extremely messed up. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed me talking and me just randomly talking about stocks. Hopefully in a manner people understand. So thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed my stream. Oh, next time I should do, maybe I should, go back to gaming as well, but I know. Yeah, that's that. So, yeah, any questions? Or I think I'll end it right now. 5, 4, 3, 2.